Yes, sir.
Yeah. Should I begin?
Yes, sir. Could you please check if the screen sharing thing is okay at your end?
Yeah, I think I've got it, so it should be
All
fine.
right.
Received. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Good morning, students. I can't get feedback for the good morning from your end, but I assume you all are all hearing me loud and clear. Yeah. Very good morning to you, and sorry to take away a Saturday morning, but this is going to be a bit different, a bit interesting. Thank you, Seema, for that introduction, which was well researched. I don't know how you got all that information from, perhaps from Bhargav, because he seems to be knowing a lot about me. He does know a lot about me, really, from younger years. I will have this session broken in 3 parts. The first part, I'll talk about my life, my journey. And from there, we take this on to the second part, where I'll have a small presentation where we can collate my journey to certain specifics. Since you're all students of management, it'll be important for you to get that understanding more on certain basic concepts which you all can carry back with you. I will share this presentation later on also, so there are some references and there will be some key takeaways. So that's really important that we get something out of this session. It's just not another morning session or a Saturday session. And the third part, we'll have this question answer or this feedback. You can ask me questions. You can put them onto your chat mode in between also, in case you feel that you're missing out on it. You can ask me the question in the chat and I can get back to you at the end also. So thank you again, Seema. Thank you, Bhargav. And I begin this little essay of ours, right? So I call this chime management, right, instead of time management, because like time is a function of so many things, right? So as you know, time is a relationship which is happening between 3 different elements: distance, space, matter, time. So distance, time, and matter are 3 constituent elements along which the whole universe is running. And along with that, we have a 4th sphere, the 4th pillar, we would say, which is basically human consciousness. We don't talk about consciousness because that is something which is beyond us at this point of time, but time plays a pivotal role in everything. So I'm going to start this journey taking me back in time, 40 years back, when I was your age, when I was in my early 20s, when I was studying in just down the road in St. Xavier's College. That was in early, this was when 1980 or so, early 1980s. I told myself at that stage, like everyone else, see, you people have this advantage of listening to yourselves. This is something which is so essential in this whole process of living, where you listen to yourselves. Because your minds are uncorrupted, your minds are not conditioned. So the more older we grow, our minds are being more conditioned. We are conditioned with knowledge. So the conditioning which takes place grows on, consolidates on us for the years in which we are growing older. Unfortunately, the preferences we have in our life are based on conditioning. The younger we are, the more spirited we are, because we are not conditioned over time. Unfortunately, I cannot tell myself that I am at a disadvantage by not getting so much of other exposure in life. I'm getting conditioned with education, with religion, with my friends, with my relatives, with the learning process. So the more I pass through time, whether it's through days or weeks or years or decades, the me is getting consolidated, right? So the I, Mr. Sayan Mukerji, is consolidated. I'm consolidated over the years. And now I tell myself that I'm an accumulation of all my years which I've lived my life. And unfortunately, what happens is, when I reach a certain stage of my life, then I look back and say that so many other things I could have done better, I could have done differently, I could have done it with better management of my whole sphere of living. If someone says at any point of time that I have optimized, I've done everything, I'm completely, in fulfill with what I have had with my desires of life and living, that's not very correct. Because this is a continued process of living. And what you all are doing is just one basic step in this whole fundamental business of living, where you're acquiring knowledge, you're acquiring some kind of equipment which is going to take you through these various decades by managing yourself and time. And time plays a very, very important role. Why? Because we have this natural instinct to procrastinate. The word procrastinate means to delay. We tell ourselves that I can do this today, I will do it, I can do it tomorrow. So why do I say that? We don't procrastinate because we are all lazy with our thinking or thought process. We procrastinate because we think that there's something else which is far more important or far more urgent or far more relevant within my understanding. And that's why I say today's work I'll do tomorrow, and tomorrow's I'll do day after, and that's how it all happens. That's what happens in a whole life cycle. But I told myself when I started my career, and before I started my career when I was your age, when I was in college, I told myself that I'm going to do everything in such a manner that once I'm done with this business of living, and I put this in quote, the business of living means the business of attainment, business of sustaining and taking on responsibilities for living, I will then go back in time and do all the things I could not do because of my pursuit to living for these 30, 35 odd years. So I take 30 years as an active work-life period for each of us, even if we all start working early in life. So 25 to 28 to work for 30 years. So that is the time period in which you consolidate your life and living within the format of, I put this in again inverted commas, this materialistic format of living. Now, this is one part of life and living. This is one part of life and living which we have to go through. We cannot run away from the fact that we have to live a life within the restrictions of all that is happening around in our lives. And the restrictions which are happening around our lives is a function of a whole lot of things. And we tell ourselves that all that is happening around us, why is it happening? We question ourselves, saying, why is this happening? Why is there so much of pain and suffering and turmoil? Why is this damn pandemic ruining our lives? Why is it that there is so much of hatred between countries? Why is it that I can't succeed as easily as I can with my day-to-day thing? Why are there barriers in what processes I'm doing? So all the time you're asking questions to yourself, which over a period of time, you mitigate them by strange ways. The strange ways you aligned to this whole process by managing it within yourself. The first part of doing this is, of course, when I started at your age, I told myself, I am going to first get my degree. I'm going to start working. And that is something which is going to make me feel independent and to pursue all the things which I can do later on in my life. So when I was in your age, I had this huge interest in chess. So I used to play chess like a chess fanatic, and a lot of references I'll do to chess this evening. So I can't see all your hands, but are there any chess players in your midst? Do any of you all play chess, or any of you all follow chess? Some of you might be, right? I don't know. I can't see all of them really. Okay, so chess is a game whereby you optimize all your skills, right? Whether it's a tactical skill or a strategic skill or an operation skill. Earlier in my years, we used to play these games over hours, run into days. So when I used to play my state championship, I used to start one day and finish the next day. Now things have changed so much. The same game of chess is played in different formats. You have the game of chess, the World Championship game of chess lasting for 2 hours each. And then you have the rapid format where you have 10 minutes game of chess. You have the blitz format, which is a 5-minute game of chess. So what is happening is the same human mind, the mind which is used to iterating at a pace which is built with the kind of environment you're in. I'm processing my thoughts much faster. I'm multitasking within myself and telling myself that certain things I'm doing, obviously in this process, the chances of errors become much more. Because the moment you're putting pressure on yourself to do things fast enough, you realize that there are chances that you might miss out on things which are important, which is not so important. And we will discuss this later, this ABCD, the basics which you all do in management technique. This is something which you all need to look at it also, in your day-to-day living. We'll talk about the ABCD and we'll talk about Eisenhower method, which is equally important. We'll talk about that as a concept. So when I went into college, I told myself I'm going to start working early. And I told myself that I will not work in an organization more than 5 years. This is what Seema Madam said, 5 years she's working here. So I've never worked in an organization for more than 5 years. Now this is a strange kind of decision which I took within myself at that stage. So all through my career, and I took this decision, why? Because I wanted to experience different work cultures. No matter how successful I was in my earlier career, even when I was with Price Waterhouse, from where I qualified, then I joined a British company called Avery. So when I was 28, I was made manager of works accounts. There are 550 people working in the works. And I got, earlier, I don't know whether you used to go to petrol stations. Of course, you all were not there then, so your folks would know that there was mechanical dispensing. You don't have these electronic dispensers in petrol stations. So we did a collaboration with Gilbarco, and we were the first company to bring electronic dispensing to the country. This happened as early as 1988. It's a long time back. So I was there for 5 years with Avery, and I was gloating in the success I was doing over there, and this was my first collaboration which I did. Later on, of course, I transformed from there and started doing mergers and acquisitions. So that first 5 years consolidated me to tell me that yes, I am enjoying what I'm doing within the time frame of what I had to do within the period of 5 years. And I was touring all across the places, and I was really in great fun and fulfilled. But at the end of 5 years, I said, now I'm getting used to the comfort of a British company, because there was a comfort zone which was created around me. But then I joined Siemens. Siemens was a German company, and they run their processes through systems. They manage time completely different. It is all through effectiveness through systems, a lot like Japanese companies. Japanese and German companies have precision models built on themselves. And they do this, why? Not because they don't factor in the amount of skill sets which an individual brings, but they do this because they think you can optimize more if you have less of errors. So it's an error-free kind of environment they run in. The Japanese brought in that wonderful concept of just-in-time, so the inventory levels came down. There was less of holding power. So a lot of things happened at that stage across the world where they optimize business models based on efficiencies, so that time is optimized. From the time production began, from the time an order was placed till the final delivery was made. So that was another format of efficiency which came within time management, which happened then. So after 5 years, I decided and told myself, I will now do things where I'm going to push myself to the brink, right? And here, I thought it was best to join an American company. And that's when I joined Heinz. Heinz are the people who build ketchup. Ketchup is one of the largest selling sauces in the world. So we got ketchup to the country. Earlier to that, we bought the food division of Glaxo. That's Complan, Glucon-D, Nycil, and Farex. They're very powerful brands. I don't know whether you remember the Complan boy and the Complan girl ad. So the Complan girl ad was started by a young girl called Mary Ann Gomes, who was the chess champion. So I used to support chess a lot in those years. And this girl used to play chess with my daughter. And I spotted her, and I saw that she was doing well with chess. And I used to make her wear a Complan cap and a Complan t-shirt and go for tournaments. And that's how the Complan girl concept started, which is, I don't know whether you see them on TV still. You have this Complan boy and Complan girl ad, which is a very big ad itself. So that was my stint in Heinz. I was there for 5 years. And then I told myself again, so this model was a bit different, right? Because the Americans work in a model where they push time to the brink. Like, they use the concept that The person will function best when he has no other options available before him. And the time frame for thinking within an American organization, a long time strategic thinking is a year. They don't think beyond a year, because a year is a huge time period for an American setup. Because a lot of things happen there. So the definition of time changes when you change with organization. So this is another kind of concept which I will discuss later. The time is a function of what is being set to you across. So at times we tell ourselves that I will do this, I will study this syllabus in the next week. I set myself for a week and say I'm going to do it in the next week because my exam is scheduled after a week. I know the time frame. I know when the exam is going to be timed, and so I internally work myself towards that. But for American company, the goalposts keep shifting all the time. They refuse to optimize, saying that if I have a linear time set for a particular point of time, they think that they are not maximizing because there are other opportunities which come in between, which are so dynamic and so much of in a flux that you cannot have a set goalpost. So the American companies keep changing their internal objectives. They keep changing how individuals should work. They brought this whole concept of work from home. There's so many years back. That's 20 years back when the bank started. The American bank started this more than anything else. Citibank started work from home concept 20 years back and 30 years back. And the traditional companies, the British companies, you had to wear a coat and a tie and go to work every morning, stay there till the office hours are completed, and then come home. So that's how it was in those years. It was so rigid and so different and so much, So that was when I was with the American company. And then I decided I'm going to go back and do something which I'm fond of, that's mergers and acquisitions. So when I was overseas, I came back and joined Bayer. And in Bayer, I was looking after the merger with Aventis, which was one of the biggest mergers in the country. So Bayer agrochemicals, Bayer has healthcare, agrochemicals and pharmaceuticals. So that was a very big merger which happened. So all I did for first 3 years of my 7 years, so Bayer I worked for 7 years, the other companies was all for 5 years. So all I did, I had a huge spreadsheet on my desktop. And all I did for first 3 years, believe me, as heading the merger, all I did was time scheduling and rescheduling. That's all I did to find out how different sets of activities were happening in this merger and acquisition was happening between two largest entities in the country. And that also happened then globally. And I realized the importance, what it was for time management at that point of time. Because everything was so critical and everything had an impact beyond. So one affected the other and that affected the other. So it was a cascading kind of effect which happened. So the relevance of time at that stage became equally important to me. That's the later stage in life, right? So I'm trying to understand myself and tell that not always is it that I am right. So I consolidate myself as a professional, as a chartered accountant, as you all, when you grow up, as whichever disciplines you all maximize in, you will be a consolidated entity where you know that I am right. Now, I'm not questioning that philosophy of thinking, because this is the stage in life where you consolidate yourself and you know that you take a decision, it is an optimal decision. It's not a decision just based on a selfish outcome which you gain out of the process, right? So it's an outcome in which everyone gains. And especially in a template which is set in organizations, if you all are working in organizations, which I assume most of you will with a professional management degree, you will realize more and more as you proceed over the years that you align yourself to the organization. That alignment is so essential. It doesn't mean that you are not having your differences with the methodology by which the objectives are met. So the more stronger you get as an I, you will keep thinking that my boss could have done this differently, or this could have been done in a better way, or this could have multiple solutions, and why not look at solutions which are equally effective? It does not necessarily mean the boss is always right? I mean, this is a domain. So I am questioning the process, because younger minds, you all have the advantage of looking at things afresh, looking at things with the energy which it deserves. We look at things, when I say we, I'm differentiating between you and me. We means people who are conditioned over the years with all these years of experience. We are always looking at it in a dimension where it's unidimensional, which isn't the right way of looking at things at all. In whatever you do, whether it's in your work life, in your personal life, in any other pursuits you have in living, there is a totality which is so much more important than the unilaterality. We mistake the center. We say this is the center and this is the periphery. We make this the periphery and make this the center. And we think that's how the world is running. But at times, the periphery is the center. Now, this is a very important statement. Think about this. When you say the periphery is the center, means you look at everything from this particular point of view, and we see that to be so far away and so distant away from your alignment, from activity, from the thought process. But if at some stage you realize that what he's saying is what I am saying, what you are saying, you will realize that periphery is the center. That means there will be no gap in that whole process between I and him. You'll be thinking in his lines, not forcing yourself to think. The moment you force yourself to do it, the objective is lost. You have to think in a manner, so it's so important that you mature as a person who can objectively understand what he or she is saying, whether it's at a distance which seems very far away. I'm saying this in a metaphorical way, because his thought and her thoughts may be completely different. Your folks might tell you no to something, and you will say, why on earth is this no coming? So if you look at that no from the perspective of the no, you will find that that has to have some meaning, which is overlaying the way in which you are iterating and you are looking at a situation. And unfortunately, most of us, this is the dichotomy of life, because the older you go, the stronger you're getting with you, the me, the I. And that's a natural way of life and living. Everyone is evolving within himself. As a professional, as an individual, later on, when you have your families, as a family man. So you have so much to do with yourself. So you are consolidating yourself. You cannot say, I'm not consolidating myself. But you're consolidating yourself within the constraints of the environment, and that is restrictive. One, because again we come back, because we're talking of time. Time is so essential to this whole process, because once you realize this, it becomes too far away, and there's nothing you can do to reclaim yesteryears. So some people used to come and ask me then, how on earth, as a full-time professional, when you're working for all these years, how on earth are you managing to do all these other things with your life and living? And that's when I tell myself, I have not done enough. There's so much more I can do. It does not necessarily mean that doing a lot of things means you're maximizing your life, but to doing a lot of things means I'm doing this in the happiness of what it deserves. It's not something which I've segmented my life and said that I'm going to do this in my work life, I'm going to do this in my social life, I'm going to do this in my personal life. So I juggle right through this whole process, even in living. Perhaps I am now telling myself that perhaps I could have done this earlier. I could have left this, this whole process and done so much more with the contributions which I could do to myself and to the society at large. So coming back to this whole thing, so then I decided after my work life, so I said I'm going to retire by 50. That's a target I set to myself. And someone has to tell me the time. Okay, I've got another 10 minutes. So by the time I was 50, I told myself, I'm going to come out of my work life and do all the things I couldn't do earlier in life. And that is so essential that all of you all are starting early, starting young. So I started things early. I did things early. When I was 25, 24 I qualified, 25 I married, 26 I had a kid. So, and I told myself that I'm going to retire by the time I'm 50. And that's precisely, I in fact retired before I was 50. So I could have more number of years to do all the extraordinary things which I thought I could have been doing with my life and living. And everyone around me, my colleagues, they were either in the board of companies or their partner or audit firms. So they were aghast, saying that why now, just do it after retirement and do it after a certain stage. So they built a time factor in the mind that this is the time to retire. I'm going to retire when I'm 60. That's what the laws of the company is saying. It doesn't mean that. So time is a function of how you perceive it and how your perception drives you. So for me, retirement was an early retirement. I retired when I was 50. And after 50, I'm starting doing the things much more, what will I say? It's more carefree and doing things just the way I want to do it. And I'm not losing out on anything. Of course, you tell yourself security is an important element in this whole process of living. You have to secure yourself. You have to secure yourself within the comfort of the success you do with your profession. And that's essential. All of you have to tell yourselves that you will do it your way. It doesn't mean you have to do it the Mr. Mukerji way. So my template is only to give you another dimension, because my life has been a bit different from most people you see around in their lives who do it conventionally. And I thought it's important that you get to know a little bit of my life to make you realize that you can think out of the box and do things as crazy as they need be. Can you believe at the age of 56? Now my daughter laughs her head off. She's 30 years old. And she backs me up to the hill. At the age of 56, I held a rock concert in GD Sabhagat. Right? Can you believe that? Now she laughs her head off at the age of 56. And she came down all the way from Dubai to attend, and she was thrilled that dad is doing things which, so I tell myself I'm going younger in years because I'm doing the things which I like doing. And I'm playing serious chess now. I used to play chess very seriously earlier. I used to spread chess. And I held a tournament for visually impaired. And why I'm giving analysis to chess is, chess is a game where what you're doing in life, you're doing in chess, really. It's just that. In chess, you're optimizing, you're strategizing, you're doing tactical thinking, you're doing iteration within yourself, but not just as an entity. You're doing it based on someone else's reaction, someone else's thought process. And in this process, there is another thing which you keep growing all the while, that is your intuition. And intuition plays such an important role because the intuitive mind is not a mind which is a conditioned mind. It's not a mind which is burdened with knowledge and accumulations which has happened through. It's not theory. Intuition is not theory, right? There is no fixed formula for intuition. And when I say intuition, I say this to all of you, that you have to listen to yourself. That is a success for an intuitive mind. And if you have a deeply intuitive mind, you yourself will optimize in that whole process of getting a favorable outcome. And that is obviously a function of time. Everything is a function of time, because it doesn't make any sense if I have a favorable outcome after my whole process of life and living is over. It doesn't mean I get a favorable outcome after the project is completed, and then I come with a eureka, with a complete kind of a thinking pattern which maximizes. So you have to have that understanding that I can listen to myself. And when you're listening to yourself, you're not listening to yourself in a forced manner. It comes from you within. It optimizes. I've had discussions with neurosurgeons, right? With serious neurosurgeons who are the highly skilled doctors who are operating between life and death. Neurosurgeons, at some stage, because all the critical patients come to them at various points of time, at times they have to take a decision based on their instinct. It's a new case which happens. They don't know what has happened or what's going to happen with that outcome, but they're completely listening to themselves when they're making an operation which is completely based on a new kind of a setup which is coming on stage. So intuition plays an important role in each of our lives, which is outside the domain of time. So intuition right through your living. If you are intuitive, you listen to yourself more. You listen to yourself attentively, even while studying for exams. I mean, I'll give you this strange analogy. When I used to study for my CA exams for inter or my final, I mean, this is the wrong kind of analogy I'm giving, so please don't listen to this very much, right? This is just and you can delete it from the record. So I couldn't ever finish my course in time because I had all my different activities, which is the wrong thing to do, right? I would always strongly urge all of you to finish your course and then be intuitive. But I used to be selective because I was forced by time to do things which was obviously, not the right choice. But I used to listen to myself to say that this is what I need to study, this is what I need to do later. And then at times you need to, that is also very important. It is something close to the Pareto principle, right? The 80-20 principle, which you all know the Pareto principle, you must have done that, right? 80% of the time we spend. So the Pareto concept is so empirical, right? So when we spend 80% of the time with a 20% outcome, it doesn't make any sense most of the time. And we spend 20% of the time doing 80%, which is of zero significance. So if we can balance the time, we will discuss this also in merit, both Eisenhower and the Pareto and the ABCD, which is, if you can iterate that in your daily lives and bring it forward in your daily lives, it helps you to at least think about in small chunks what's happening in your regular living, right? So this is so much for my life story. And then, so after that, when I started listening to myself more often, I did two things very important, very, very intrinsically. One was, of course, I ensured that I don't give away or get away from the core values which I built over the years, right? So when you're trying to work for something, I'm not doing it with an end in view. I'm doing it because I think it's important to be done. The moment we do things with an end in view, half of it is defeated because it brings in selfishness to your process. It brings selfishness to an objective which you're getting. So that is something which I would urge you all to do all your life. Do it with the wholeheartedness, with the complete sense of, involvement in the process. But yes, you have to think of an end. The end is important because that's what you're studying for. You're studying for your exams, you're studying for your career goals, you're studying for job. But the moment you get fixed onto the end, the whole process becomes diluted. So to manage time, you need to look at that effectively. So I will now quickly get through the presentation. I think I should do that because I'm already running behind schedule. And this is what I keep doing. My time management is awful, really. I need to learn from you kids. Okay, so I need to first get on to the screen. Is the screen coming on? Can you all see the screen? Hello?
Not yet, sir.
Not seeing this.
Not yet? Okay, I think I will just check it out again. Now can the screen be seen?
Yes, sir.
Brilliant. Okay. This power off. So you can see the screen loud and clear? Obviously clear only. Okay. But why is this thing not turning again? Let me... See why I'm having a problem again.
No, sir. Exactly the way we did it yesterday.
I'm just doing that again.
Do not start the slideshow. Just get on to the PPT first.
Yeah, that's what I've done. Okay, let me get on the screen share again.
Open the PPTs, share the screen. Now you start the slideshow. Yes, there you go.
You can see it now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Check. Yeah, now it is fine.
Perfect. So we got on. So the conventional definition of time management. This is what we were talking about earlier. So it is the process of planning and exercising conscious control of time spent on specific activities, mainly to increase effectiveness, efficiency, and productivity. So this is the key element to this, right? You're increasing effectiveness, efficiency, and productivity. Obviously, that's with an end to a view, but it's a conscious control of time, right? And obviously, it involves juggling, and that's the main thing. You're going to do multitask at all points of time. But the whole thing is you're juggling between family, hobbies, personal life, and everything which I was doing all my life. But it is within the finiteness of time. So unfortunately, time is restricted between what I need to do now and what I need to do next, right? So that's important. So because the finiteness of time comes on, I have to have a choice to tell myself what I need to do now and what I need to do later. That's really important, right? So we're going to discuss this in a process where first we'll discuss the scope within TM, how we can manage the time, and then we'll talk about to include all activities. So eventually the term is broadened so that we can include personal activities as well. in the whole process of time management. And we'll discuss also time management and the process and tools which are there, which helps us to achieve this, right? I will share this presentation with you all later, so you all can also, ask these questions later. It is important to note, like when I was saying this in my life cycle, there are different cultural concepts of time, right? So when you talk about time is different for what it is with different parts of the world. For American, Europeans, for Indians, for Southeast Asian, for Asia Pacific countries, time is not just the differences from GMT, but time is how culturally you're adapting time within the framework of the activities which you're doing. Like I explained to you earlier, for the Americans, it's a shorter period of time. For the Europeans, time is based on till the activity is completed. So the time expands and contracts like human morality in some stage forms, right? Okay, so we're going to discuss these themes in 4 different parts, right? The first is creating an environment which is conducive to effectiveness. Now, the environment is essential. This is the first part. Then we talk about setting up priorities, which we'll talk about all of these, the Eisenhower method, the Pareto method, the ABCD analysis, and the POSEC method also. And then we'll talk about the reduction of time spent for non-priorities. We spend so much time on non-priorities, and we'll talk about implementation of goals. Okay, so to create an effective environment, it is important that first we must be more organized, right? Getting organized means all that paperwork which we have to get done with. Our tasks are a huge number. I get up in the morning and tell myself I've got 20 things to do. So that itself is something which it daunts me. I have to do so many things. Why on earth do I need to do so many things? So you need a basic question to ask yourselves as to, that means there's a long term, there is some deficit which is happening, that this accumulation is happening. Even as an analogy for your exams, why do I have to study so much, so little time? That's because precisely you're not studying enough over a period of time. So that's one of the reasons why at times we defer and we delay and we procrastinate and we make life more difficult for ourselves. So protecting one's time by insulation, isolation, and delegation. So this is more important than later stage in life. Now, of course, you can't insulate, nor can you isolate, nor can you delegate. But these 3 are key elements in your work life. Insulation means I need to protect myself by saying I've got adequate control over my work, whether I need more manpower, whether I need more infrastructure. Isolation means I need to be not in coherence with the objectives which is happening around me. I need to do this independently so that I can optimize on my skill sets. And of course, delegation. If I'm going to decide to do everything myself, I'll never finish anything in time. So I need to make sure everybody gets into the process. Like when you'll do that wonderful festival of yours, you have everyone doing something which is adding value, but doing it differently, independently, cohesively, attentively, and with responsibility. So that's equally important, right? Okay, and motivational emphasis is also something which is very, very important. Management through focus goals, which we can't discuss now, but this is a very important part also. Time and procrastination. Now, procrastination is something which is an illness. I'm very strong term I'm using, it's illness, because we keep telling ourselves, I will do it later. Now, moment I keep saying I will do it later, that means I am deferring time, which itself is something which is, it's not what it's supposed to be. I should be it now. Even if I'm not doing it, I tell myself I'm not doing it now because of X, Y, Z reasons. There's a nice little thing I put up there. Tomorrow is a noun. A mystical land where 99% of all human productivity, motivation, and achievement is stored. It's a mystical land. We just say, I'm going to do it, at some stage of my life. But I told myself I'm going to do it when I'm 50. And I went somewhere close to that. Okay. So Daniel was a very famous psychoanalyst and a psychologist. And he said that the prefrontal cortex, right, the one which is in front of your head, is the most involved part of the brain. So that's what manages everything, your attention span, the impulse management, the organizational learning, self-monitoring, amongst others. So that is the iterative mind, the brain, which comprises of the prefrontal cortex. That's the one which develops right through your life. It's not that it just develops to a certain age and stays stagnant. So that brain is maximized. So the human brain is the most important part. So if the brain can maximize on efficiencies within the limitations of your acquired skill, that means I'm effectively using time more effectively. That's when things happen faster and quicker and more effectively, right? The second part we'll talk about is setting of priorities, right? Setting of priorities is the most important thing, where you have to think smart. It has to be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and relevant, and time bound. So if you think smart in everything which you do in your life, the younger generation thinks smart. There is no way we can, get away with that. You guys think optimally. You all can do Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, other social distancing, whatever TV, Netflix TV, all of that in a span of 5 minutes, I suppose, and you switch between whatever. That's a skill set we'll never achieve anyway. But so work in priority of order. So you set goals to prioritize. That's most important. And these goals are recorded and broken down in projects and action plans, which you all do all your time. So this is the key essence for getting something to. So you have to say, I do this, I will study this daily, I will do this weekly, I will do something monthly. So you are working on a scope for planning it and taking your tasks according to the importance which you set on that, which I will come to in the next slide. So that is ABCD. So ABCD means I prioritize tasks that perceived as being most important and urgent. So the key words are elements of urgency and importance. So what is urgent might not necessarily be important, right? And what's important, not urgent. So we confuse this element all the time. And that's how most of us do activities which are a mixture of ACBD, and it goes all in different ways. So the chronology is to put it in these buckets of A, B, C, D, and understand that the ABC analysis is essential for us. This is something which will happen automatically once you are doing this in your daily lives. It is just that you are putting this in segments which helps you to prioritize. And you already know the Pareto principle, which is really, really important. 80% of the tasks can be completed in 20% of the time, and the remaining 20% of the tasks will take 80% of the time. This is what happens all the time. So it's important, recommended that the tasks fall in the first category and be assigned to higher priority. So it's important that with minimum time, I can do maximum amount of work. I'm not qualifying the activity. It's not a qualification of the activity which I'm doing. It's the number of tasks which I'm iterating. If I have to do 100 tasks, 20% time I'll take to complete 80% of that task, which is fantastic. I mean, that's how I should be doing it. It's like when you're giving your GMAT exams. You quickly go through and do all the stuff which you know is in your grip, in your control. You get that out of the way, and then you can focus on the items which come to do later. That's the 80-20 rule. Remember, this is really, really important in your daily life, in whatever sphere, what you are doing. Eisenhower method, it's the same thing, right? He came up with this. He doesn't know what is difference between urgent and important, the same thing. So what is urgent and important is both needs to be put into this decision matrix. This decision matrix is so essential, where you have what is urgent and what is not urgent, right? Urgent, of course, when you're at home and the kitchen's on fire or the baby is crying, that's urgent. And that's important. You need to work on something that is important and urgent. Some things are not urgent, but it might be important. Some things which are not important might be urgent. And there's some come with the fourth bracket, which is the last quadrant, which are not required at all. All trivia, all activities which could be very pleasant, could be socializing, could be whatever. So I need to exercise everything and get into something which is within the bucket of 1, 2, 3, and 4. I assume which is not urgent but important gets into some kind of a thing where most of the criteria falls into the yellow box. Okay, POSEC method is also another one which is important. This is in a work life, right? We have to prioritize by organizing, streamlining, economizing, and contributing. So all these 4 things play an important role in getting what you need to do. The POSEC method is something which you'll be studying in your management classes also, I suppose. You need to streamline things, make it more economic. So the process is to be economized so that you can do it without the pressure which requires in other things. So you need to, that is the important part of this whole process. Okay, the third is, this is the most important one, get rid of non-priorities. We hardly do that. We don't differentiate between what I need to do now and what I need to do later. So how do we get rid of non-priorities? There's a very important thing which came out in the Wall Street Journal, and that's why I'm quoting from there. Jared had said, the key to productivity is that they are cracked up to be. He reports an estimated 30% of listeners spend more of the time managing the list than they do completing what's on them. So all the time I'm referring to and say, this is what's completed, this is not what's completed. I'm obsessed with that whole agenda of what I need to do or what I don't need to do. And that is something which defocuses and just delays the whole process to roll up our sleeves and just get into the activity. So that's very important. There are lots of new softwares which are coming up, techniques you can use now, which is, again, elimination of non-priorities is so important. Change is hard, and daily life patterns are the most deeply ingrained habits of all. So this is what I was trying to tell you earlier. We are so conditioned that we do it just the way we think we need to do with our past. So we are refusing to see the new elements which come in to get into a process where I can maximize on time. So you need to capture the moments, review task handling methods, and postpone unimportant tasks. Understanding that a task's current relevancy and sense of urgency reflects the wants of the person rather than the task's importance. So that's what happens, right? Most of the time we prioritize the task based on what I want, which is inappropriate. The task demands this. Now, I'm going to make a statement which is this, you need to listen to this very attentively. There is only one truth in everything. In whatever we do in life, there is only ultimately one truth. We might have different perceptions of the truth. We might feel that there are different paths and ways to get to the truth, but the truth is only singular. So when I am saying this in a different way, so a task is important. So task has only one true task is there. The rest of the task is unimportant. And we get all of that in the process, and we lose the whole importance of being with the task for the moment. Elimination of non-priorities. This is a good one, right? We are always multitasking. The little I can listen, ignore, and forget at the same time. So he's multitasking, so you can't blame him. So that's what we are doing with our daily lives. We are at every stage of time, our mind is not attentive. So we're trying to do as many as we can. That's how our habit has become. So it's fantastic in different ways. That's why I say the younger generation are a marvel at multitasking. You can do so many things together at every point of time. But you must be in a position to understand, to focus on matters that have an apparent positive outlook without assessing their importance to personal needs. The moment we bring the personal element into the process, especially in our work life, the importance hierarchy gets dislodged. And that affects the priorities for all, for the ABCD analysis, for the 80-20 principle, even for the Eisenhower method. So we need to be absolutely sure that this is important, this is urgent, and have the difference between importance and urgency for the activity. And of course, the most important is implementation of goals. Yeah. So this is a very important thing we said. We don't, the do's and don'ts of management, right? We never say no. We never. We always say yes. Even if the boss will say something, you will say yes. Because we don't have the authority to say no. The authority is not just by virtue of time or circumstance. It's by your consolidation as an entity to have that empowerment to say no. If I say no, I should build that brand within myself that someone will respect that no, not because it's personal, not because I cannot do the activity, but because the outcome of that is not favorable, and the other person who is the recipient of this no understands this. And that is so essential for us to realize. So you have to build your brand. If you go home and tell your folks, no, I will not go out to this social gathering, I have got studies to do, that no will carry its importance because they will realize that you have something important to do. I am saying no to something which is morally incorrect. I have authority to say no to 100 different things. but that needs to be respected in the entirety. If you're the boss and you say no to someone working under you, and with a personal interest in mind, he can't go home, you have to stay late or whatever, that no has no significance. So setting priorities again is most important. Don't drop everything. We keep dropping everything also. That's the other extreme. So we need to ensure that to maximize, we do it in a manner in which you have an optimization which is taking place. And don't think a critical task will come down in one's spare time. It never happens in spare time. Spare time is the time where you are not dedicating your complete attention for doing an activity. Remember this, spare time is always a time, otherwise the definition of spare time is defeated. You're not supposed to be doing anything in your spare time. I would put this in a different way. Spare time is a meditative mind, a mind which is away from activity, away from the noise, away from all the disturbance which is happening in your life. And if I'm being away from it, why on earth am I going to then do a critical task? I take leave 5 days in a year. I work for every day of the year apart from my Sundays. I take 5 days off in a year, and I take that 5 days off to be with myself, with my family, with the things I need to be doing. So I can't do any critical activity at that point of time. So this is very important for us to understand, what is spare time. This is the most important, GTD. Every morning, tell yourself, what is my GTD? This was created by David Allen, which is really, really important. The method is to finish all the small tasks immediately, and a big task is to divide into smaller tasks to start completing now. Very similar to what we said in 80-20 earlier. So if I can get the small tasks done with, if I'm studying for my exam, right, I have got this full syllabus to do. I know with my understanding how much time each chapter is going to take. I will complete those which are the smaller chapters which I can finish fast, so that I have enough time and left to finish my bigger chapters. So this is the key essence to everything in life. If getting things done. This is just the opposite of procrastination. Procrastination is now the time to do it later. So procrastination is just delaying the process. So GTD is the other flip side coin of procrastination, right? So, and that is also to avoid this information overload or brain freeze. Sometimes before the exam, you say, gosh, I studied whole of last night. I've got so much put into my head now, I need to get it out in the next 24 hours. And your exam gets deferred because of the coronavirus to the next weekend or next month. And you're bust. Yeah, because you have an information overload which you can't get out of your system. So it's important that you get into your organization of your inputs in a manner in which it's the bigger tasks also is divided, and you put it into smaller tasks, and so that you can start now. The thing is getting it done now, to start now, and not say I'm going to do it tomorrow or day after or day after. Trust me, this all my life, this is what I have I've learned from this process. The sooner you begin, the sooner you finish. It's an obvious iteration. The sooner you begin, everything in life, whether it's your personal life, whether it's your professional life, whether it's everything. So the sooner you begin. So you should begin your task immediately with a clear kind of understanding of how you must go about it. Right? And this is the most important thing, right? This is the funny part. You must be knowing this, right? Pomodoro, your ma'am must be doing this to you, also giving you this effect. If you're doing 3 online classes or 4 classes, you get a small break in between. It's important. Pomodoro is actually an Italian tomato, right? So what he did was he created a time machine where after 25 minutes of doing it, you take a 5-minute break. So you take a break to refresh yourself, to realign yourself, to regroup. So you're back for the next 15 minutes. So you keep using this, whatever, 15 is an analogy. You could do 25 minutes with 5 minutes for a 30 minute. Ideally, that's what Pomodoro used to do, 25 minutes and 5 minutes. So spells of, that's the attention span which happens. Like, you deserve a 10-minute break after this, because Ma'am Seema told me that we should keep it within 1 hour, and we are about to have crossed an hour. So that means you're going to do for an hour and take a break of 10 minutes and then get back to your next session or whatever. I'm just being, So it's important that you take these ideal Pomodoro breaks between 25 and 35 minutes long, even in a study attention, because the mind becomes refreshed after that period, right? So this is really important. So this is where I will end my presentation. Yeah, because I think I have to keep to the time frame. It's really important. I've just done it slightly overshot. I'm sorry about that. But I would welcome anybody's questions, or if anybody wants to ask something.
Yes, students.
I think they need to
All
unmute.
yours. Can we have the questions now?
So I think you have a question in the chat box.
I do? Okay, here I go there. Nope, I don't see anything in my group chat. I don't think. Here I get it. Okay, this is from Rohit, right? Thank you for such an inspiring session, sir. There is a competition everywhere we go, and it just keeps on increasing. And so, being a Martinian, I know losing is something which was never taken nicely. How did you handle the failure, if any, in your life later on? This is a good question. Okay, so there are two parts to this, right? One is there is competition everywhere. That's true. And competition brings excellence, right? Moment you get something which is a benchmark which is beyond yours, you realize the importance of, you respect that other person more, or respect the system or whatever more, so that you can enhance yourself and compete in a similar measure. And that's how the whole world is running, right? The efficiencies and the system is running because of competition. If there was no competition, we would be so much seeped in our own standards that there would be no excellence. Yeah, but so that is the first part, which is, I think, it's very, very important. So the competition will be wherever you go. So what does it mean? It's only the fit who survive, right? So it's a fit who survive means one whose skill sets are such that he can take on the competition. And I know this does not necessarily mean it's in a negative way, it's in a very positive way. So if you consolidate yourself as a professional, if X can't appreciate your merit, there is always Y and Z, A to Z. There is the whole universe around you who will recognize your talent if you have a talent which is worthy of recognition. So you shouldn't ever get disappointed in life saying that I'm working and I'm doing this for a goal. I'm not getting, if this doesn't happen, something else will happen and something else will happen. And I'm not saying this with optimism. This is exactly how it happens, because if you build your brand, the brand will be always available because you'll be something more than what others have. That's the first part, which is so essential. The second part, you said that to handle failure. This is really, really, really important. I mean, it's happened to me a number of times. In 1978, right, when I came second in this state sub-junior, I was to go to nationals to play the nationals. I don't know whether you heard of a chess player called Dibyendu Barua. He won the state and he went to nationals. He won the nationals. He won the Asian. He won the World Junior. Everything, and he became a grandmaster. In 78, I gave my ICSE exam, and my dad said, "You can't go to Delhi to play the nationals." So that was a failure, and I couldn't stay in my chess. I mean, of course, I used to play at the state level, but if I had, and that deeply hurt me in the process. It hurt me for many years, and I didn't let that suffer. At this stage of my life, I'm back in chess again. I'm doing chess. I'm spreading chess. I've got chess for street children. I've got an academy for street children where they can't read or write, but they play chess so incredible. They've beaten every single school in Calcutta. Every single school. I don't know whether you know this. It's called Future Hope Chess Academy. They beat the English cricket team twice. The whole English cricket team, including Alistair Cook, has come. They have lost to them. Peterson has come. Alistair Cook has come. So anyway, so going back, so again, that's an intuitive way of looking at things. So you shouldn't let defeat or fall. Obviously, I mean, we keep saying this. You shouldn't let, but it happens intrinsically. If you have strength within yourself, you will take that as an opportunity. The more you cannot do something, the more you will want to do it. And that is something, and that desire is what is equally important. The desire to finish the race. Yeah, you have to finish the race. I can fall down. Even that happened literally in my 100 meters in school, which people laugh about it. I couldn't finish the race. I fell down. I fell, but I limped and crossed across the race. So that's something which you need to do this all the time. Yeah, so that's a good. Did I answer your question anyway? Yeah, and good to. Which house were you in?
So Hastings.
Hey, I was in Hastings too. Good. Okay. Yeah, that's nice. But I was there 40 years back. I think, was your Your dad must have been in school then.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah,
Thank
okay.
you.
Any other questions? Yeah, there's another one. Thank you for a great session, sir. My question is, sorry, this is from Tejas, right? Bhav, sir. I wish to do some things, but keep prioritizing them over one another, studies, hobbies, entrance tests. At one point of time in the day, I feel mentally exhausted and it feels time is less. And what I wanted to do has been done up to the standards set. So how can I decrease the mental exhaustion or prioritize in a better way? So this is precisely, some of the parts which we covered today. It's important that you, first of all, the priority, right? The prioritization has to be done bang on. You have to have that internal kind of strength or understanding to tell yourself, this is what is important, this is not so important, right? So unfortunately, most of this at times happen based on my personal understanding, right? Because it's affecting my life, it's my day-to-day pattern. So you might need to consult your fellow students or fellow friends to understand from the studies what is the most important thing you need to cover and how much time and attention you need to give to it. See, the other things, like, I'm not saying that you stop everything and just do your studies. It's a good thing that you're juggling, at least you've got hobbies, you've got pressure of entrance exams. So you'll have this all your life. So you cannot run away from the pressures of existence. The existence which you're having now, it's all linear pressures. There is something which you can predict and you can work along that pressure. Later on in life, you'll have pressures which are non-linear, which are coming randomly at you from different paths, which is beyond your control. And I can assure you, it's 1,000 times worse because you can't control the environment. The environment is always controlling you. But at this early stage in life, you are insulated from all that is happening around your life. It's small buckets of pressure which you're juggling with. So it's important that you understand the importance and priority. Like we said in Eisenhower method and the ABCD method and the 80-20 principle, use that, read that in a sensible way where you can balance your activities and say, this is what's priority for me. I'll just track out the stuff which I need. Now I can do my internet once a week or twice a week. I can do my Facebook 10 minutes before I go to bedtime. I'm just giving a silly analogy, but you need to prioritize it yourself. If someone forces it onto you, it will never happen. That is so important, right? And that exhaustion part is because you're not getting enough breaks. And two is perhaps you're not enjoying it as much as you would have enjoyed if you had done it your way. Could be you have to do certain things which you're not enjoying. So that's why it's a mental pressure which is getting onto you. But I'm sure this is just a phase, right? There's some subjects you will just love. And that's what you like to do more. And that's happened. So that's why you're specializing. You're doing things which you're wanting to. More like in school, you're doing everything. You're forced on to do subjects. I didn't like history or geography or whatever. But later on, it's fine. I realized I could do the things which I could become a boring chartered accountant. Unfortunately, that's how it turned out to be. But then I wanted to do things differently. So you will listen to yourself. So the trick is to listen to yourself. It's so important. I keep saying this. The takeaway from this time management is that is something we can do right through your life. Listening to yourself attentively and listening to yourself not in a biased way of what I think is instinctively I do it. It's not that. It's something very deep. It's something it comes from within. Whether it's through sentiments, through emotions, through your balance. So everything has a relevance to your living. It's not just the intellect. I don't need to have so much of knowledge through my books, right? There are so many other difference, and especially for your batch, all of you guys, once you get into work life, your softer skills are far more important than all this theory you learn in your life. It doesn't matter. It depends on how you interact with people, how you understand their problems, not with a purpose. You're understanding it because you're identifying with him. The moment you identify with someone, you understand his problems more easily. Yeah, so that's and I think that mental exhaustion is just that. You're pushing yourself too hard. That's why too many late nights and all of that. That's part of it, I think. But yeah, Tejas, you're where is Tejas? I can't see him.
Yes, sir.
There you are. Okay, good. Yeah. So what are your hobbies like? What do you do with what hobbies do you have?
like for some time I like to I used to play a lot of games. So I was like, maybe I could do something like make videos or something. So I wanted to learn, and also I'm doing that. But maybe all of this I use this time to start. But now I feel that even entrance I have to keep some studies. So I was pushing it away and was thinking, how do I prioritize? That's why I asked you.
Okay. Yeah. So your entrance exams obviously it's important priority. That's the first thing. So you need to understand. See, one part is why it gets more confusing is when we were 40 years back, we didn't have so many options and so many things to do, and now you guys have so many more options. So that makes it more difficult for you because your options more means you're having more amount of things to iterate. So obviously you have to work this. So once your entrance is done with, perhaps you could get back to doing all of this. But this is tough. Yeah, you have to balance this. It's just a question of balancing act. And the exhaustion is something gets rid of. Moment you enjoy it, exhaustion goes. I'm not exhausted these days. For 30 years of my work life, I used to be exhausted. Not because of the 12 hours I used to put in every day. It's because I knew I was doing it with a purpose and with an end. But soon I realized that I could now do it with just what I want to do. So moment I realized this at the back end of my life, that you can enjoy it if you can dissipate yourself much more if you enjoy it. Enjoyment is the key to and if you are joyous in every spirit of the term, and it has to be consistent right through the day, everybody around you becomes joyous. Everybody around you is full of love and compassion and happiness. We don't talk about those elements now because we are just focusing on the syllabus. So if you're a happy person, 10 people around you is happy, that 10 people makes another 10 people happy, and it goes in a progression which is beyond anything else. And that is far more important than all these other things which we are seeking in our lives, which is, unfortunately, that's how it is. Sorry, did that work well? Is there anything else? Anybody?
No, sir, that helped. Thank you, sir.
Great. You can always be in touch with me. I've given my email ID at the end of the thing. So in case, and if you're doing good videos, great. You can do some videos for Jelly Bellies after your exams are over. That is, of course. Jelly Bellies is the group in which I play. All old people. One guy's a PhD in finance. One guy's a doctor, eye doctor. One guy's a director with Infosys. So, but we're doing it for fun. We are doing it for, so you can go to YouTube and see our stuff. It's called jellybellies.com. I think it's there somewhere. We'll play the music which your dad must have been listening to there. Okay.
So can I ask you something?
Sure.
Okay, we notice professionals who are sticklers for time and they are always rushing into things, they are always stressed out, even during social events. Now, my information system tells me we have heard that during social events, you hardly look at your watch and you never bring work home. and you are never too early or too late to arrive at any event. And you are not even too early or too late to leave. Can you tell us how to achieve this?
Yeah, so that's a well-researched one. Yeah, so these are some things which in our daily lives, I think it's very important that we respect the other person. So, whenever you're going for a meeting, you're respecting the other person, you're respecting the environment around you. So you should always make sure that I'm extremely punctual. And whatever I do, I just make sure that I'm there on time. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I have to, sacrifice a whole lot of things to do it. But you have to be on time. This is my weakness or whatever, strength or whatever we call. So that is something that's very important. And another important thing you said, Seema, is so once you get involved, then time loses its whole dimension. See, time is a function of a constraint. Time is a constraint at times. It's a compression which is happening where I'm trying to achieve so much more. I'm trying to say so much about what I've done in my 57 years of existence and share it with you and tell you something within this format of time. So I have to then break myself up and say, I do it in little segments. I do what I think is important, I say now. And not I say what is important based on just my understanding. It's my understanding which I level it with what the requirement could be for this session. So that is something, again, I lose myself at times because you're right. I very often, when I have these sessions, I at times lose scope for time at all. So That happens. That's true.
Thank you so much, sir. Today also you exactly 10:30 there you are.
Yeah. So thanks for setting this up so well, and it's great that these kids are there. We can always interact later also. If they have any questions, they're most welcome to ask. You can pass them through you. And thank you to Bhargav for getting me on this. I love interacting with your kids anyway, so that's fun. And thank you, Seema, for that.
Students, any more questions? Okay. This session is indeed for the students. In case students want to ask sir anything, any life hacks? Yes, Adnan.
Nothing. I wouldn't ask anything more because sir's covered everything, I think. And it's just that you are a guitarist and a pianist, yeah, and so am I. And you had a band, so
Really?
yes, sir. So you had a band back in school and college days, which you're you're in it now after a long time, and which is really inspiring because I had a band we were a band back in school, and somehow we lost touch from in college days. But then you really give me that thing that I can still achieve it later in time with my friends. And this is really nice, really, really nice.
But Adnan, you're making yourself feel very old when you say back in school days. That means must a few years back, right?
Yes,
How
sir.
old are you now?
But then all of them are some of them are in Bangalore and Chennai, and
so that's the advantage with this online thing happening. You can now just get yourself an interface. You can record at home. So you play the guitar.
Yes, sir.
You play the guitar. So you can now. Do you sing?
I do. I'm the singer, guitarist, and pianist.
There you are. I don't need to tell you. So get yourself an interface and start. You know what an interface is, right? You can get a small one of these interfaces, which you can then. There's an interface.
I have it, sir.
Then that's it. That's it. You kids know everything. There now you collaborate with us. You send your recording. Why don't we'll work something together? Okay. So only when it's in that 20% category. Yeah, you finish all your other tasks, your exams, your scheduling. Only after that we can do. Yeah, we can do music across generations. That's important. But yeah, so it's good that you have a balance to life and living. So it's so important that we don't just stay, just doing things one way, which we're used to be doing in the mediocrity of our lives. Most of us are quite happy with what little bit. It's nothing wrong being that, but if you have options to do all the things which make you happy, which give you fulfill, which give you abundance, which gives you a scope to reach out to people. I have this wonderful thing where I can reach out to people, which I love. So this is a part of my involvement. I think I can learn much more from others than I learn from myself in this stage of life, because I've lived my life. I've conditioned already, so I need to break free from my conditioning. That's how I look at living.
So this is really inspiring. Thank you so much.
Great, Anna.
So this one thing that has come to mind. Can I ask you? I don't know if I can ask you this. I have noticed some of my students who lose out on time specifically during exams in an attempt to be perfectionist with that one particular answer. So they lose out on the 2 hours or the 3 hours that they tend to have. But just in an attempt to write that one right answer, perfect answer, they keep investing too much time on that one answer and then lose out on the other answers.
That's precisely so that's the Pareto principle, right? That 80-20. So we need to be very smart in this whole process of understanding how you go. There are a lot of multiple things to do this. One is, of course, to make sure that I have an understanding of which is going to take how much of time, right? That basic understanding you must have. So when I used to study law, for example, right? Law, I had 8 or 10 acts, 8 or 10 major acts, the Companies Law, the Stamps Act, the registration. So I didn't know everything, but I knew where to study what and get what and how much time it would take for me to retrieve that. So similarly, the student needs to understand that I can crack this fast, I can crack this not so fast, this is going to take maximum of my effort. So you should have that much of understanding. So that is the first thing and that you can only get if you are well prepared for the exam. Obviously, when you're sitting for the exam, you're getting questions which is beyond the scope, beyond what you have studied in that sense. But you have that skill part to tell yourself that I at least can put this in the buckets of my ABCD analysis or the 80-20 bucket. So a lot of people, I mean, what I used to do earlier in my college, when I used to give all my other exams, is finish off all the stuff which are the easy ones. I could at least know my marks I'm assured that I'll get 60% or 70%. And then I cut off. Though I could have spent more time to do better on that 80%, but I spend then time, so I know that at least I'm protected now. Instead of spending, because the uncertainty of the 20% becomes more in solving it than the certainty of doing the 80%. So it's always important that you finish off the stuff which you know. So the more you study in your syllabus, the more chances of you getting more in the bucket of 80% than in the 20%. It's the same analysis through your ABCD or through this Pareto principle. It's the same thing. But you have to have the skill set to understand that I'm going to have so much problem solving this problem or answering this compared to the others. If you have that basic understanding, then it becomes so much easier to do this process. And this is precisely what ma'am is asking. That I used to get that also. Even for some of the entrance exams, I used to just answer half of it and come back, and I couldn't complete it because I used to waste so much of my time trying to think I'm going to crack the bigger ones because of that. But that's I don't think that's a smart way of going about it. Yeah, so that's an important question where you all need to tell yourselves, I will finish maximum of the stuff which I know. And that know means knowledge. That means how much you study, the depth of your knowledge. There will be 20% which is, in spite of you knowing, you have to apply, or you have to do things which is outside your domain, or you have to think, or you have to put it differently. So that comes, I mean, I don't know. This is something which is, or some people might want to do that first and say, I want to get the difficult thing out and then leisurely do it differently. But then you have to have the confidence level of cracking that, really high. That index in the weighted average for completing that has to be really high. So you have to have that much of understanding. So when I played, I just give an analogy. I played a grandmaster. Grandmaster means a person who has a 2,500 ELO rating. My rating is much low. It's 2,300. So playing a grandmaster means his skill sets is 1,000 times better than mine. He's far more knowledgeable. He knows his theory. He knows everything. But when I'm playing with him, it's the same principle of opening, middle game, and end game. So I quickly get off my opening because I know he's got much more prepared in his opening than I am. But my middle game is strong. My tactical, strategic is strong. So I spend more time in my middle game, and I spend my least time in the end game because my theory in end game is hopeless. So that's how I iterate based on the outcome which is happening. So each of you have to then iterate it and see which is where you can maximize. But yeah, so the more you're prepared, it becomes easier for you to understand which bucket you can put this in. So I would say that is the takeaway. You need to know the whole syllabus. You might not know the whole syllabus 100%, but out of the whole syllabus, you know 80% of it well enough to tell yourself that I can attempt and get that done with. And the balance 20%, you will do it. It's not possible for you to, everything 100%. It's not possible. I'm saying this in front of ma'am also, but that's something which is a reality.
Right.
Did I answer?
Yes, sir. I hope students are benefited. Students, for your information, sir gave one shot and cleared its CA exam.
That doesn't mean much, really. That's again the question of I chose my studies well enough. I listened to my NGO, so that's also important. You need to be intelligent and do the things which you need to be doing. I didn't study everything. I just studied less than 3 months for my entrance. Less than 3 months for my entrance. So that is, that's like taking a long shot at it. And I was busy playing chess and doing some music, which was the wrong thing to do in retrospect. But I think, Adnan knows that he has to balance his music and his piano and his studies. Yeah, and he'll get back to this at some stage and have a rock concert when he's after 30 years. How old are you now?
I'm 20, sir.
20. So you got after 35 years you'll have a rock concert.
I hope so.
For sure. Yeah, of course. No,
we all will be invited.
Absolutely.
Front row. Students, any more questions? Okay. All right. In case there are no questions, we'll wrap up then. That was indeed rich experience shared with us at the right time, sir.
Thank you.
I am sure all of us, we students and teachers, each one of us have imbibed something or the other today to enrich our future lives. My takeaway today has been periphery is the center. So you see, sir, we have not wasted our Saturday morning. Thank you once again, sir. Thank you, teachers, for joining in. My dear students, thank you so much for joining in. Without you, this session would have been redundant indeed. This was an awesome session. We all understand. A special thank you to our third year student, Rishabh Jain, for designing that lovely poster for us.
With that, where is Rishabh?
Rishabh is not here, sir. He is attending a different session. For third years, we have a different session.
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah.
But it was sweet of him to design it for us too.
It's lovely.
Hoping to connect with you again, sir. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye, everyone. Thank
With
you.
your permission, I'll end the session here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, teachers. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, students.